The senator from Arizona.
Mr. President, 16 years after the Supreme Court's disastrous Citizens United decision, families across Arizona are paying more for groceries, rent, gas, and health care. And they're wondering why the people they elect to represent them always seem to have time for the priorities of billionaires and big corporations, but not enough time for them. That question did not come out of nowhere. It came from lived experience. Hard-working Americans are doing everything right. They're working longer hours. They're budgeting carefully. They're raising their families, and they're just trying to stay afloat. But they're still falling behind. And that's why we're here today. In 2010, the Supreme Court handed down a decision that put a for sale sign on our democracy. The Citizens United ruling opened the door for corporations and billionaires to spend unlimited amounts of money to influence our elections, often without the public ever knowing who's behind it. The court decided that spending money in elections is the same thing as political speech, and that corporations should have the same political rights as individual Americans. Does that make any sense? And the results of this was somewhat predictable. And it wasn't limited to a courtroom. It changed how this place, the United States Senate, works. The loudest voices in Washington became billionaires and not everyday Americans. It led to the rise of super PACs and dark money groups. These groups, they come out of nowhere, and they spend millions and millions of dollars attacking one candidate or cause or supporting another. They organize around what benefits them financially, and they pour massive amounts of money into securing a specific outcome that benefits them. And they aren't subject to the same transparency or accountability of a campaign that a candidate runs. It created a system where power shifts away from everyday Americans and towards the people who can write the big, giant checks. That shows up in the policies that politicians fight for and the ones that they block. It's no surprise. And right now, under Donald Trump and Republicans in Washington, we're seeing this dynamic play out very clearly. Last year, Republicans passed a bill to hand out massive tax breaks to billionaires and giant corporations, paid for by throwing 300,000 Arizonans off of their health care and slashing food assistance for families who need it. He has stacked his cabinet with billionaire friends who are completely out of touch with everyday working Americans who are often living paycheck to paycheck. And early in his term, he tapped an unqualified person, Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, who spent more money than anybody else to get Donald Trump elected, hired him to oversee an effort to recklessly fire thousands of hardworking federal employees and shut down entire agencies, undermining our national security. Americans are living through a serious cost of living crisis right now. Families are struggling with rising expenses for health care, for housing, for utilities, for groceries, just about everything. And what I hear from my constituents They want relief. They want their government to help bring down costs and help make their lives more affordable. But time and again, the policies that would do exactly that stall, or they just die right here in this chamber and down the road at the White House. 16 years after Citizens United, this is not about relitigating a court case. It's about recognizing how deeply money in politics affects people's lives, and about drawing a clear line between a political system that serves billionaires and one that serves people. Americans see this clearly. They're demanding transparency. They're demanding accountability. And they're demanding a government that answers to the voters, not to the billionaires, and not to the special interests. That's why from day one, I've approached this job differently. I've never taken a dime of corporate PAC money, and I never will. And I've introduced legislation to ban corporate PACs. I publish my schedule online so that everybody can see what I'm working on, who I'm meeting with, and how I am spending my time in this job. And I've introduced legislation to require all senators to do the same exact thing. I've also led on legislation to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. Let me be clear. Nobody should be able to use this job to profit personally. It's horrendous, and it's a huge problem. One of the first things I did after being elected was moving all of my assets and that of my wife's, Gabby Giffords, to a qualified blind trust, the best standard identified by Senate ethics. And I think all members of Congress need to do that. These are not radical ideas. They're about restoring trust and making sure that this place works for people who don't have lobbyists, who don't have super PACs, who can't write a 7-figure check. These shouldn't be radical demands. They're basic expectations. And here's why this matters so much right now. As long as big money and billionaires dominate our politics, it will continue to block progress on the issues that people care about most. Lowering skyrocketing healthcare costs, making housing more affordable, increasing competition so families aren't left paying more every single month. Those fights all run straight through the influence of corporate money. It is very clear. So let me be clear. Money is not speech. I mean, who came up with that? And corporations are not people. So this moment isn't just about looking backward at a court decision. That's not what we're getting at. It's about deciding what kind of Congress we want to be moving forward. Do we accept a system where access is bought and outcomes are shaped by the wealthiest members in our society? Or do we set a higher bar and say that democracy should work for the people who vote, not the people who spend millions of dollars of their own money in elections? That's the choice right in front of us. Now, I'm proud to be joined by my colleagues today as we mark 16 years since the Citizens United ruling, to make clear that the damage from that decision is real, and it's ongoing, and it's standing in the way of progress on the issues that people care most about. And this conversation, this should not end here. It should continue with action, with accountability, and with a commitment to put people back at the center of our democracy. Thank you, Mr. President, and with that, I want to welcome my good friend and colleague, the Senator from Rhode Island,